This is Argentina, a land celebrated for its breathtaking landscapes, world-renowned football stars, and delectable cuisine. Yet beneath this vibrant exterior lies a harsh economic reality. Since 2000, Argentina has faced 5 significant economic downturns, a staggering number that reflects the depth of its crisis. From hyperinflation to soaring national debt, the challenges are immense. How did Argentina, a country once on par with some of the world's most productive nations, fall into such dire straits? Many of you might not know this, but Argentina was one of the richest countries in the 1920s. Its GDP per capita was among the highest in the world and even higher than some European countries. This level of economic development was backed by increase in agriculture and export of goods and services. The fertile pampas of Argentina generated large-scale production of beef and wheat, which was sold to Europe and other parts of the world, earning large amounts of foreign exchange in the economy of the country. However, change in this aspect was seen only around the 20th century. Thus, political instability together with mismanagement of the economy paved the way to 3 decades of ruin. For a lengthy period, Argentina underwent numerous coups and fluctuations in its leadership, which destabilized its economic environment and led to inconsistent policies. This instability made free long-term investment and long-term economic planning difficult. These two dynamics show that Argentina was too dependent on agricultural exports, while its economy did not diversify, something that made it face problems in the global market. When the international markets reduced their demand for agricultural exports, the negative impact was felt back in the economy. Moreover, protectionism and high tariffs defined the characteristics of the Argentine economy that hindered its international trade even more and led to a worsening economy. Thus, by 1980, the country was experiencing severe economic challenges characterized by hyperinflation and huge debts. Inflation rates equally increased to more than 3,000% per annum, thus devaluing the currency as well as savings. Domestic and international debts likewise soared, and to an ever-redescending rate, which also experienced consecutive defaults and changed financial crises. The sum total of these changes cast Argentina into long phases of economic instability and deterioration. So, what were the key factors that led to this dramatic decline? Can you imagine a country defaulting on its debt multiple times within a few decades? Argentina's history of borrowing is a cautionary tale. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Argentina accumulated significant foreign debt. By 2001, the situation had become untenable, leading to the largest sovereign debt default in history at that time, amounting to over $100 billion. The debt crisis was exacerbated by a series of economic policies that failed to stabilize the economy. High interest rates, an overvalued peso pegged to the US dollar, and austerity measures led to a widespread social unrest and economic instability. The currency pegged to the dollar, introduced in the early 1990s, was initially successful in controlling hyperinflation, but eventually made Argentine exports too expensive and uncompetitive on the global market. This policy, combined with high interest rates aimed at attracting foreign investment, strained the economy further. In 2001, facing an unsustainable debt load of economic recession, Argentina defaulted on its sovereign debt. The default led to a dramatic devaluation of the peso, bank runs, and widespread protests. Despite efforts to restructure the debt, including a significant deal in 2005 and further negotiations in 2010, Argentina has continued to struggle with debt repayments. The country faced another default in 2014 and again in 2020. These repeated defaults have severely damaged Argentina's creditworthiness, making it difficult for the country to access international capital markets. The ongoing debt crisis has also contributed to economic instability and uncertainty, affecting investments and economic growth. How did inflation spiral out of control alongside this debt crisis? Were you aware that Argentina and other countries within the continent were going through hyperinflation, which was above 3,000% in the year 1989? Inflation has been a persistent problem in Argentina's economy and has reduced the citizens' buying power, coupled with the creation of havoc in the economy. The factors that contributed to the occurrence of hyperinflation in Argentina include the printing of more money in an attempt to balance the government's budget deficits, non-adherence to the fiscal measures, and erosion of confidence in the country's currency, among others. For instance, between 1989 and 1990, inflation rates rose to undesirable levels, eradicating savings and income completely. This period witnessed the fall of several governments and entailed a critical social and economical disruption. Effects on the lifestyle resulted to be disastrous. Inflation had taken its toll on basic goods and services, making it very hard for the ordinary citizen of Argentina to afford basic necessities. Many firms shut down, people were left jobless, and the levels of poverty rose sharply. As indicated by the IMF, the aforementioned conditions were compounded by persistent fiscal deficits, as well as the government's penchant of using printed money to finance those deficits. The stabilization plans during the early 1990s faced several social costs, inclusive of pegging the peso to the dollar and involving strict monetary controls, which, although curbed inflation, the measures of economical liberalization caused a severe contraction of the short-run social costs, including the rise in unemployment and poverty before the situation started to recover. So which of the government policies contributed to the worsening of these problems? Why have government policies often made Argentina's economic situation worse? Over the years, a series of policy missteps have compounded the country's economic woes. For instance, the decision to peg the Argentine peso to the US dollar in the 1990s was initially intended to curb hyperinflation, but eventually led to a loss of monetary policy flexibility and competitiveness. This policy made Argentine exports too expensive and unsustainable, contributing to economic stagnation and crisis. Other policy errors include expressive public spending without corresponding revenue, leading to large fiscal deficits, subsidies for energy and transportation, while politically popular, drained public finances and created inefficiencies. The Kirchner administration significantly increased public spending, which rose from 22% of GDP in 2003 to 41% in 2015, creating fiscal imbalances. These subsidies and high public spending were unsustainable in the long term and strained the economy further when commodity prices fell. Additionally, restrictive trade policies and nationalization of key industries discouraged foreign investment and stifled economic growth. Policies like capital controls and the nationalization of Argentina's largest energy company under President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner created an environment of uncertainty and deterred international investors. These policies have often been reactionary rather than proactive, addressing immediate crises without long-term planning. As a result, Argentina has been caught in a cycle of economic instability, with short-term fixes leading to longer-term problems. The frequent shifts in policy and lack of a consistent economic strategy have undermined confidence in the economy. How have these economic policies and crises affected the social fabric of Argentina? The social effects of Argentina's economic disaster are enormous and highly significant. Current unemployment rates, poverty levels, and therefore social inequality are much higher as they have risen over the years. About 39% of the population is still living below the poverty level, not forgetting the issue of unemployment prevalent this year 2023. Instability of the economy has led to a difficult environment throughout the country of Argentina, especially to worsen social injustices and make life intolerable for the majority of people. Economic instability and political volatility also create a brain drain because most of the young, educated Argentinians immigrate to other countries in search of better job opportunities. This brain drain of the intellectuals also has an additional detrimental effect on the possibility of the country's revival and economic development. It was also noted that this trend has been most noticeable in white-collar workers such as professionals and skilled workers who anticipate limited opportunities for career advancement within Argentina. Cuts in the budget and poor funding has led to a downturn in the provision of social services such as healthcare and education. Public service delivery has also decreased in quality and is limited, and social inequality has become rather worse because it is much more difficult for low-income families to enhance their living conditions. For instance, there is inadequate healthcare in the health sector, thus most people seek treatment in the private health sector, which they cannot afford. Based on these challenges, what can one draw from Argentina's economic experience, and what will be the implications of the current situation? If other countries could learn one thing from Argentina's economic struggles, it would be the importance of addressing structural issues promptly and effectively. Tackling the debt crisis, inflation, and social inequality requires comprehensive and well-coordinated policies. Argentina's repeated economic crises highlight the dangers of short-term fixes and the necessity of sustainable long-term strategies. Investing in economic diversification is crucial. Argentina's over-reliance on agriculture made it vulnerable to global market fluctuations. Countries should strive to develop multiple sectors of their economy to reduce dependency on a single industry. This diversification can provide more stability and resilience against external shocks. Maintaining fiscal discipline is another essential lesson. Argentina's excessive public spending without corresponding revenue led to large fiscal deficits. Ensuring that government spending is balanced and sustainable can prevent the accumulation of unsustainable debt levels. Prudent fiscal policies, including responsible borrowing and spending practices, are vital for long-term economic health. Ensuring political stability and transparent governance is also key. Argentina's frequent political changes and policy shifts have undermined economic confidence. Consistent and transparent economic policies can help restore confidence among investors and the public. Clear, stable regulations and a commitment to rule of law are essential for creating a favorable investment climate and fostering economic growth. Argentina's future depends on the ability of its policymakers to implement effective solutions and adapt to changing circumstances. By learning from past mistakes and looking ahead, there is potential to overcome these challenges and build a more resilient economy. Countries worldwide can benefit from Argentina's experience by prioritizing sustainable policies and comprehensive economic planning. Now let's wrap up by considering the broader implications and what you can do to stay informed and involved. We've covered Argentina's rise and fall, the debt crisis, hyperinflation, policy missteps, and the social impacts of economic collapse. What do you think is the most significant challenge? Is it the debt crisis or hyperinflation? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content on global economic issues.